Today at the museum, at the Dunlop Mack workshop,
that has sheared off, and that is going to be difficult to get out.
a vintage lifesaver is in need of emergency treatment.
And if I snap that drill bit in there, then I'm really in a mess.
On the finishing straight,
Left a bit.
two of Brooklands' racing giants prepare to go head-to-head.
Well, best of luck, Alan. May the best man win, so that's me, of course.
This is what I want to show you.
Oh wow, look at that.
And two friends visit a collection of a motoring great.
Okay, you're going to have to do the pushing. Oh, sorry.
Jinxed it.
Spoke too soon. Good morning. Hang on. Thinking about it.
It sounds like Daisy has started up outside.
In the motoring world, not many places have spawned as many legends of the track as Brooklands.
Next up, we have a motorcycle.
From the drivers who risked their lives in the hunt for fame, fortune and adrenaline, to the motorbikes and cars that raced here, designed and built to be the fastest and most advanced in the world. But there are two vehicles in the collection that still stand out above all the others as the fastest on 4 and 2 wheels. The first, the epic Napier Railton. Built in 1933, it broke numerous records and set the ultimate Brooklands lap speed.
But lapping at over 130 miles per hour, he passes them all to take the lead halfway through the race.
And in an entirely different class, an extraordinary motorcycle was also being primed for victory. Built by George Brough and flying Freddie Dixon in 1927, the Brough Superior was once crowned the fastest bike in the world. For retired museum director Alan Wynne, it's been a long-held ambition to see the two track slayers run side by side, Titan against Titan.
I don't know if there's anybody before who's ever sat on the same piece of track with that car and that bike. They're representative of the cream of their respective technologies at the time, so it's a complete unknown.
In their history, the Napier and Brough have never shared the same track in anger, but all of that is about to change.
Plan for today is, it hasn't run for a couple of years, so fresh fuel in it, just checking everything's attached to the rest of the bike, nothing's going to fall off.
Peter Lancaster, a former community bus driver, is taking care of some maintenance on his historic Brough. He usually keeps it on display at the museum for his fellow vintage petrol heads and Brooklands visitors to enjoy.
If it's not been used, one should just check over nuts and bolts just to make sure nothing's worked loose or broken in the interim.
He's got the bike out today, making sure it's race ready for Alan's challenge. He's agreed to take on the Napier Railton at last. With the punch that the Brough packs, he's confident of its chances.
In loose terms, about 50 or 60 brake horsepower, which back in the day was spectacular. This actually held the world's speed record in 1929, and it took the speed record at 129.05 miles an hour.
And this is the very bike that broke the records. It was ridden by Bert Lavac, known as the Wizard of Brooklands for his countless motorbike racing accomplishments.
So that was a wonderful speed back then, because there was some discussion a couple of years previously whether a man could actually breathe at 100 miles an hour, let alone ride a vehicle at that.
The Brough also became the first bike and sidecar outfit to complete a lap of the Brooklands track at over 100 miles per hour.
Okie dokie.
The Brough and the Napier need a good run to get up to speed, so they've agreed to meet at a nearby runway. But before Peter starts preparing for the Napier showdown, he needs to make sure the bike is roaring at its full potential.
My love of motorcycles started with my dear father, who was a motorcyclist before the war and a very good engineer. And as most of that generation, they tried their best to dissuade their offspring from being interested in motorbikes because they totally knew how dangerous potentially it was. However, being a young lad and being contrary, of course I did. Well, that was excellent. Takes a bit of getting used to after 2 years, but it's still all there. Seemed to run very well.
After years of standing still, the Brough is showing what a superb machine it really is. And as Peter leaves the finishing straight, he spies Alan tinkering with a Bentley.
Hello, Alan. Are you looking for the engine? It's in there somewhere.
Just checking we've still got some oil.
While his Brough could be considered an outlier for victory against the Napier, Peter's feeling bullish about his chances.
And the £50 wager, is that still on? Is it?
Well, it depends at which point along the runway we settle it, because you're going to race away from me at the
about
beginning.
halfway through.
Yeah, I should be in top gear by then. I think I'll be sort of showing you the way. Should be walking away at that point.
You think so, yeah. So the winner takes that and champers and a roast dinner in the evening.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, best of luck, Alan. May the best man win, so that's me, of course. Yeah.
I'll see you on the day.
See you on the day.
And intimidation attempt complete, Peter needs to crack on with preparing the Brough for victory.
The front wheel is the original pattern, which is a very old tyre. It's at least 90 years old, that tyre, which is OK pottering about here to low speed, but if I were to take it a little faster, it wouldn't be good for my long-term health, perhaps, because it may shred and fall apart.
Peter wants to replace the Brough's original wheel with a modern version for the big race.
They do visually look different, which offends me as a purist because I like the old-fashioned look. However, needs must. It obviously gives me pleasure to own it and use it and ride it and tinker with it, but I feel a duty as well to look after it. I have to protect its heritage and display it and make sure it's not hidden away, unused.
While Peter practices the art of motorcycle maintenance,
Right, let's get it out then.
the Napier is released from its pen.
Right, don't run over Vic, we need him.
As it's such a valuable piece of machinery, it's only on very special occasions that it's allowed for a spin at speed.
Left a bit.
This is the front brake lever here and the front brake linkage.
The Brough Superior, like many bikes of the period, wasn't designed with a front brake.
So this is the Triumph front brake. We've got a brake lever which goes on the handlebars where there wasn't one before, and we have a torque reaction arm here which I had to make up separately, which attaches to the back of the forks so it holds the brake in place. And because we're fitting it in a bike which didn't have a front brake in it before, I've had to adapt it slightly to fit.
Now the wheel's been swapped out and the brakes attached, the Brough's race ready and primed to face its foe.
It hasn't been used for about, not seriously, for about 3 or 4 years. So it'll be nice to give it the opportunity to stretch its legs a little.
They'll be meeting Alan and the Napier about 20 miles away on a 6,000-foot long runway at Dunsfold Airfield. It'll be the perfect place to finally play out Alan's long-held ambition for this historic battle of motorcycle versus car. Dunsfold Aerodrome has many links to Brooklands. The aircraft manufacturer Sopwith started life at Brooklands in 1913, making iconic planes like the Camel on the site, before its founder, Thomas Sopwith, helped found and head the company that was to become Hawker Siddeley, which ran its assembly and flight test centre from Dunsfold and created the likes of the Harrier and Hawk jets. And a vehicle from the old airstrip is hopefully about to be a star attraction at one of Brooklands' most popular events, especially to the younger generation of motor fans. This Range Rover fire engine once patrolled the very runway that the Napier and Brough will be racing on.
If a plane came down in the fields beyond the runway or before the runway, that fire truck could pretty much get anywhere quickly.
As Dunsfold was a test centre for Hawker Siddeley aviation from the 1950s, fire safety would have been a top priority while flying these planes that were still in development.
It's got a crash bar on the front, You know, it would go shooting through fences and across the fields if that was what was needed.
Today, this historic truck is having a much-needed overhaul from retired chartered surveyor Chris Bound. He's preparing it for Brooklands' annual Emergency Services Day. Young and old will soon be flocking to the museum for the chance to don firemen's hats and police badges and hop into some vintage emergency vehicles.
So these are the original hoses, and they have these connectors here which fits onto here in an instant, and then that will allow the water to be pumped through to wherever it's needed.
And with his own passion for Range Rovers, Chris is hoping the fire truck might be a major crowd pleaser.
We've got the blue lights and the sirens, which every good fire engine should have.
But Chris has his work cut out.
We haven't had this running for about 2 years now. It is immensely popular, particularly with children. The crowds love it. It's an unusual vehicle, a Range Rover 6x6 with 6 wheels, all of which are driven, is quite rare.
Chris wants to drive the Range Rover proudly onto the finishing straight, ready for its hopefully adoring crowd. But there's a big problem lurking under this truck's bonnet that might put a damper on his plans.
The water pump for the engine, it's got a serious leak, which means we've been losing all the antifreeze and coolant, and we can't run it for any period of time without it overheating because it's losing all its water. So the plan today is to remove the water pump. So that just will lift out, I think. So I'll just take these hoses off. Right, and there's the radiator coming out. It gives me a bit more space to work on now.
Chris has reached the exposed water pump.
The problem is this bolt here. I should be able to get this bolt into that hole, through here and into the front of the block, but it seems to be solid with something.
The blockage in the cooling pump's casting means that Chris won't be able to fix it together tightly with the other pump parts, making it impossible to create a watertight seal. He needs to clear the blockage.
I think I'm going to have to take this front cover off, and hopefully I will find that there's a piece of bolt like this sticking out that I can then extract. So this is the timing cover coming off here. So that is interesting in that it's not showing me what I was expecting, but what I can also see now, which I couldn't see before, is that there is a bolt sheared off. It's this one here that's the problem, and that has sheared off in the block, and that is going to be difficult to get out.
As a large part of the bolt has broken off, removing it could be a major issue.
I'm probably going to go and sleep on it and decide what's the best way forward.
Volunteers at Brooklands come from a wide variety of backgrounds.
All a bit of an unknown, this, isn't it?
From software engineers to camera operators.
I'm just tidying up the forks.
They bring their unique interests and life experiences.
Are we ready? Yes, indeed. Okay, let's go for it.
Making the Brooklands bunch a melting pot of different skill sets.
Oh, it's 2 fuel tanks.
Friends Perry Barwick and Michael Digby go way back, often collaborating on exciting bike team projects.
They don't get much more original than this one.
Much to the envy of his fellow volunteers, Michael's CV also features working as an engineer for one of Britain's most impressive motorsport greats.
Hi, Michael.
Hello there. Found us all right then?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Today he's invited his friend for a visit to his other place of work.
Before we go down to the workshop, I've got a couple of things to show you in here.
Oh, brilliant. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
The family home and workshops of a pivotal figure in motorsport.
This is what I want to show you.
Fabulous.
Okay.
John Surtees.
First time I went into the oak barn, I was amazed. It's got such a fabulous collection.
What a beauty. You can't talk about
classic bike racing without mentioning John Surtees. He was one of those talents that doesn't come along very often. He was a complete natural and so fast.
Surtees began his motorcycling career as a teen, and by the age of just 22, he'd won his first world championship. And he just kept winning. It was after securing his 7th title that he made the unconventional move that would seal his fate as a motoring great.
The end now, and the man flagged in first is John Surtees.
He became the first person to win world championships on both 2 and 4 wheels.
So am I right in thinking this is one of the championship bikes that John...
That's a 500 MV. He won the championship on MVs several times. I admired him as a youngster. Whilst he was winning races on motorcycles, I was reading about them in the motorcycle magazines.
Isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
Can I sit on it?
Yeah, if you like.
Fantastic. I'll take my jacket off. I don't want to scratch this lovely tank.
Ridden by Surtees, this MV Augusta 500cc was once one of the fastest and most successful bikes in the world.
That's fantastic. Do you know what? It fits me just like a glove. It's really tucked in, isn't it? It's incredibly streamlined. You can get right out of the airstream there.
It's geared fairly low, because the last time it was used was probably at Goodwood Festival speed, where the top speed's probably only about 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, only. It's a lovely machine, it really is.
As well as having a passion for racing, Surtees collected and built his own machines. Michael and his colleagues continue to take care of these varied projects today.
This year we got 3 Nortons on the go.
Many of the bikes here are made up of new old stock, and there are 1950s Nortons being assembled here for the first time out of pristine parts.
He knew how special they were even then, didn't he?
He did.
I mean, you couldn't just let something like that go to waste, as so many race bikes have done.
Working in that workshop is it's a privilege, and the machines are fantastic, the best you can get, basically.
One of the more personal projects of Surtees was to restore a bike and sidecar outfit identical to one owned by his father, Jack.
What a lovely machine.
Yes, that's it.
When John was growing up, the Surtees family ran a motorcycle shop, and as a teen, he started joining his father on the racing circuit.
This is a sidecar outfit which John's father would have ridden just before the war.
In memory of his father, Surtees and the team built one of his classic machines from old parts.
John obviously wanted to put this together because of his father's heritage with it.
Michael and Perry have a special interest in Jack Surtees' sidecar outfit. His competition circuit included none other than Brooklands racetrack. Michael's hoping that Perry will man the sidecar for a much-needed test spin of the unit.
This is about 3 years since this was last run, but yes, we just have to fill it with oil, fuel, and see if it goes.
Well, I can't wait to see it. Can I do anything to help?
Yeah, perhaps you can pass me a can of oil.
You want me to pour it?
Yeah, go for it.
With the oil in, it's time for the test drive.
Okay, Perry?
But will this beloved old motor still be roadworthy after its 3 years in hibernation?
We'll just push it up the hill a bit.
Good afternoon, Brooklands Museum.
Emergency Services Day is one of the most popular family events in Brooklands' calendar. The museum's old aerodrome fire truck is due to attend, but a checkover from motoring team volunteer Chris has revealed a bad leak in its cooling system.
There is a bolt sheared off in the block.
It's a tricky fix and requires specialist welding equipment that Chris doesn't have, so experienced engineer and panel beater Andy Kelly from the Heritage Skills Academy based on site has been called in to have a look.
There's a stud broken on the engine block, and they've just asked me really if I can weld a nut onto it to get the stud out, and hopefully it comes out first time. I've not got a lot of stud there, and that's my worry. So there's not a lot of stud sticking out.
Andy will try to attach a nut to the problematic stud.
Get the nut over the top, hold it in place, and then get it welded on with a really good fixing. No, it didn't work that time, so I didn't bite. Didn't quite grab hold of the top. So we do another run, get another nut.
He tries again.
I'm going to stick a washer over the top of it and weld the washer to the stud. All right.
And again.
Right, I'm going to soak it in WD-40. Hopefully it gets in the thread and hopefully it gives me half a chance. No, it snapped off again. Okay.
But it's no use.
I tried, but there wasn't a lot to hang on to actually get a weld to grip it.
Time for a different tactic.
This is the B plan now. So I've just gone and got myself some Imperial taps. I got the right size drill bits, so I'm going to crack on, centre punch it, drill it out and tap it out, which is always the thing I'd rather not do. I'd rather the weld worked, but it didn't. So.
As pulling it out manually isn't an option, Andy will attempt to drill through the blockage.
So I'll just put a little marker on the drill bit, just to make sure I don't go too deep.
It's an extremely delicate task.
If I snap that drill bit in there, then I'm really in a mess because these are hardened still. So now it's just take your time, nice and slowly. So I'm only in about 6 mil. It's not making a big impression on it.
Andy's not having much luck. He needs to get closer to the problem.
I'm going to try and take the grill off, and this is another problem if it comes off. If I can take the grill off, I might be able to push more pressure, get my body behind it.
One by one, despite his best efforts, the drill bits break.
Where we are at the moment is we've snapped about 4 or 5 drill bits trying to drill it. I've tried to settle in it and work, anneal the bolt. It's just work hardened itself.
Chris arrives just in time to appreciate Andy's dilemma.
I think I'm in as far as I should be in, you know? You know what I mean?
I wonder whether it would be safer to treat that as a stud rather than a bolt.
Put a stud in it.
Put a stud in it
and then put a nut on
the front.
That'd be ideal, yeah.
And then it would never have to be disturbed again, would it?
Where Andy was drilling, there's now a hole that the pair hope they can fill with a new stud.
Well, there you go.
Shall I do it?
Pass the baton over. They should catch nicely now, but my issue was, as I was spinning it, I could feel I was taking a bit of the alley off.
Yes.
The blockage hasn't been completely cleared, but if this new stud can be attached, it can be used to fix the pump parts together and make it watertight again.
If we can now get this thread into that hole, we can put that bolt in, and we'll be on our way.
How's that going in?
Hey, what I don't want to do is bottom it out. And
yeah.
It's not going to be great.
No.
Because the drilling created a larger hole than before, the new stud isn't holding inside securely. The pair have one last hope to solve this head-scratcher if it's to be a runner on emergency services day.
We're going to have to get a helicoil, which is a spring, will go into that hole, and then we can screw the stud into it. That should then do the job for years to come.
Brooklands volunteers and friends, Perry and Michael, are at the family home of the late great motor racing hero, John Surtees.
This is quite a special opportunity for me, to go in such a historic sidecar outfit. It's not a standard sidecar, it's not something you sit in. You kneel in this thing, and there are all sorts of handles and pads that you have to lean over. That's a very different experience to riding a bike.
They're about to test drive a motorbike and sidecar that Michael made for John, identical to an outfit once ridden by John's father, Jack.
I've not been in many sidecars.
I hope you enjoy it.
I'm sure I will.
But it hasn't had an outing in some 3 years.
Okay, you're going to have to do the pushing. Backwards on compression.
That's it.
Ready?
Ready when you are.
Okay.
Sorry.
Jinxed it.
Spoke too soon.
They'll have to try harder than that to get this old girl up and running.
We're just going to...
Anyone who follows racing has to have heard about the famous John Surtees. Working with Michael for such a long time at Brooklands, I've known his connection here. I never thought I'd get the chance, really, to be invited to come and have a look at this collection of amazing bikes. I was not expecting a ride in John's father's Norton sidecar outfit. I feel very privileged. What an experience.
Yes, that's going well. It's going nicely.
Around here, you can still feel the bumps, but can you imagine at Brooklands?
Yeah.
So it must have been a hell of a jarring experience. But
can you imagine what young John felt like, 14-year-old hanging on heels with grim death?
He had a good father. I mean, it's a 14-year-old boy's dream, isn't it?
Yeah,
to jump in a vehicle like this and go racing with his dad.
Yes, first experiences of racing.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well, hopefully we can do the job now.
Andy and Chris are attempting to solve a mechanical problem in an old Dunsfold aerodrome fire truck. They've made progress, but they're not done yet.
Helicoil is a little spring, actually, and the purpose of it is that when you've got some damaged thread, you can drill out the hole to the next size up, and then you can insert this spring.
They're trying to fit a new bolt into the truck's cooling pump, so it can be tightly closed and sealed. But the bolt isn't sticking, so they're hoping this nifty piece of kit will hold it in place.
That's the helicoil we're going to put in there. This is a special tool for putting it in, which goes in there, and then that will drive into the hole. And then the bolt that would have originally gone in there will go in and screws into this spring. So it's a sort of a get out of jail, really. And if I can get this in, then we'll have cracked it, I think. I think that's good. Yeah, that's good. I think we've cracked it.
With the new bolt secured, it can now be used to clamp the water pump together and hopefully make it watertight enough to prevent any further leaks in the future.
How are we doing? Are we in?
We're cracked it, I think.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks very much for your help.
Yeah, it's always a favour goes wrong, isn't it? So anyway.
Now that the hard part of the fix has been taken care of, the truck is moved back to the Dunlop Mac workshop to be put back together. Hopefully it will be up and running in time for the Emergency Services Day event, as long as nothing else goes wrong.
This is the water pump that goes onto the front of the timing cover here. I'm just going to get a wire brush and tidy it up a little bit. Get rid of this crud, we don't need that inside the engine.
It's been a real challenge, but Chris is finally able to put the parts back in the truck and secure them.
I'm going to give it a bit of a hand by putting some of this gasket seal on.
As the problem involved a big leak, he's doing all he can to make sure the sections fit together tightly enough to create a seal.
I'm at the point I'm ready to stick the water pump back on. It's simply going to push in here. I'll thread it over the two studs we've got and push it on like that. And then I've got here a selection of bolts. Do that one first, that looks like that's the right one for there. So this is where originally there would have been a great big bolt, and we've replaced that with this stud. So I'm just going to put this on here see if I can get a bit of tension on it. I'm going to be very careful not to do it up too tight because I don't want to then pull it out.
So far, Chris and Andy's stud fix seems to be holding. It looks like their hard work has paid off.
I think we're just about there now.
Finally, after hours of tinkering and despair, Chris hopes to hear the roar of this fire-extinguishing airport hero. Or not.
I remember those from when I was a kid.
It's Emergency Services Day at Brooklands. The museum are expecting crowds from miles around, flocking to admire a multitude of different rescue trucks, vans and cars, including Chris's difficult customer, an old Dunsfold Aerodrome six-wheeled fire truck.
I'll just go and see if it's going to start. Hopefully it will.
Despite fixing the cooling tank, the truck is still refusing to start. Chris has replaced the battery.
I'll give it a bit of choke.
But will it do the trick?
Switch ignition. I should hear the fuel pump. Yes, I can hear the fuel pump, so that's a good sign, a good start. Let's see what happens. Hey! That's all right, isn't it? Can't beat the noise of a V8. Yeah, I think we're looking good. We're looking good. Let's see if it will roll.
And the engine's not the only thing Chris has been tinkering with.
That's that one. That's good.
Every child and every inner child loves a flashy light.
And there's the other one. And now the real test. Let's see if the horns work.
For Chris, it's a great result to a rescue mission he thought might not end well. Now the fire truck can cruise down to the finishing straight.
First time it's moved under its own steam for about 2 years now. Very much touch and go as to whether we would manage this. I found a good spot on the finishing straight, so I think this whole thing takes its rightful place alongside some impressive vehicles. It may be a scruffy old thing, but it's certainly a rarity.
The visitors are descending, and the restored truck is top of the list for some younger enthusiasts.
Do you want to put the sirens on? Hey, now you're on your way to the fire? There's a policeman there. There is. Oh, the kids love it, don't they? 6 wheels.
What do you reckon?
That's unusual, isn't it? The siren goes and they all jump out of their skins. It's what it's all about. A day like this, I think.
The kids have the opportunity to actually come and interact with the firefighters and the vehicles and that kind of thing. He's wanted to be a firefighter for ages. There's always lots of fires in our house, which he loves putting out.
Completely unexpectedly, I've ended up with one of the most popular vehicles. So I've had a queue of kids wanting to come and sit in the truck all morning. We've put a lot of hard work into getting this done. It's been all hands to the pump, but all the hard work was worth it.
Two of Brooklands' racing greats have arrived at Dunsfold Aerodrome. The Napier Railton, famed for breaking no fewer than 47 speed records in the 1930s before it came to this very runway using its pace to test airline parachutes. And the Brough Superior, declared in 1929 to be the world's fastest bike. These two iconic machines have never gone head-to-head, until today. For ex-museum director Alan Wynne, it's a dream long in the making to see the cream of Brooklands motors run side by side. But it's not without its risks.
The bike riders are very vulnerable, and as you know, when they overdo it, they tend to fall off. And what you don't want is a 2-ton motor car hitting you when you're in the process of falling off your motorbike. We literally have no idea how this will pan out.
The Brough Superior will be ridden by ex-community bus driver and bike fanatic Peter.
Well, good afternoon, Alan. How the devil are you, old chap?
While the Napier will be manned by ex-museum director and classic car devotee Alan.
So this is going to be it then, isn't it?
This is it, the grudge match.
Yeah.
As both of these machines are considered the fastest of their class and period, this race has been a long time in the making.
Who's going to win this one then?
Depends how long the course is, I think. Because if it's only a few hundred yards, you're going to win hands down. If I've got time to get into top gear, I think I can probably come back at you. I'll just have to keep on lengthening the course until I can.
You win.
Yeah.
You've got sort of huge power under your bonnet, being half an aeroplane there, or full aeroplane, and I've got a measly 1000cc V-twin here. They're geared differently.
I mean, it's only a factor of 24 on the cubic capacity, and about 10 on the power. You know, what's your problem?
Well, we shall see. I don't know what they'd have said when you were a young lad, when you were in the 1920s.
I think the only thing to say is, gentlemen, start your engines.
Excellent.
The two historic vehicles will compete in a best-of-3 runs race down the 6,000-foot runway. On such an important day, it must be clear that the victor won fair and square. The Napier support team placed their bets.
It's a really tough one to call. I mean, the Broughs should be quite fast away from the line, being so small and light. But Napier Railton should catch up and pass given enough space. The question is how quickly Alan's going to be able to do that.
The Napier in an out-and-out run would automatically win. It would get ahead, that is. However, on this distance, the Brough Superior sprint bike might just be touching the line first.
After nearly 100 years of waiting, the moment of truth has arrived.
Go! They're on their way! They're on their way!
Here they come.
The Brough pulls off with a roar, helped by its light build.
Fantastic.
That's a very good start.
But the heavier, more powerful Napier soon starts to gain ground.
It's looking close. Napier just pulling ahead.
The Napier soars across the finish line in first.
Good clear win for the Napier there.
On to the second race.
Go!
The Brough zooms out in first, but can it keep the lead this time?
And the Napier's got it by a long stretch.
With Peter taking it easy on the priceless Brough, he's beaten again. He's got one more chance to challenge the Napier. But again, the bike is pipped by the mighty Napier Railton. The race is over.
Well done, guys, that was great.
Magnificent work.
Yeah. Well, officially, the Railton is faster than the bike.
Unlucky, Peter.
Well done.
How did you do, old fellow? It wasn't too much for you, was it? Wasn't too stressful?
So where are we going for this dinner?
What, steak and chips?
Yes, but the finest T-bone steak and triple
Oh, the
chips.
finest T-bone.
Yes. Yeah, no.
We can observe, gentlemen, that the motorcycle was being driven with tremendous care and consideration for its age. The motor car, the Napier Railton, was being driven with great skill and panache.
Sorry, are you trying to say it was a draw or something like that? Well, I think we'll carry this on
Next time.
in the bar afterwards.
Yes,
Yes,
indeed.
a good fight, a good fight,
Yeah.
A good
have
fight.
a drink, and then a fight outside. You're bound to win, Peter.
Yes.
Do you want me to do the...
Yes, throw the gauntlet down, we'll make it official.
Yeah, right. The Napier Railton is definitely the star car of the collection. There's no doubt about that. And of course, the Brough is definitely the standout bike. It looks fast standing still, and it looks and sounds even faster as soon as you've started it.
Today it was superb. It was only limited by the rider's common sense and wish to stay alive for a little longer. It's 90 years old, so that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good.